Yeah, look, if you retrain, although admittedly there's a huge backlog when it comes to training HGV drivers from DVLA, if you manage to retrain and you get that high wage, you probably are going to be better off. People in that specific industry, that specific time, are going to be better off. But the reality is, for most of us, our wages are not that elastic. We're not going to see these huge pay rises in the short term, especially since our pay rises are based upon previous inflationary expectations. Instead, for what we're going to see for most people who aren't in these specific industries is the cost passed along. So we're going to see the cost of shipping, which is going up, be it domestically in the UK, or we're talking about container ships from China, or whatever else it may be. We're seeing a lot of supply side issues across the economy. You're going to see price pressures. You're going to see the cost of goods go up, and therefore you're going to see a lot of people actually, I would say, probably worse off. People who can't necessarily benefit from wage increases that are going on in some sectors at some times for some people in the economy. So this is why I think the government is misguided to celebrate supply side shortages, to celebrate the idea that wages are going up in the short run, unless there's actually substantial productivity improvements. That tends to take a lot longer. That's not going to happen overnight. In fact, it might not happen at all, which just means we're going to be left with people having a lower quality of life overall.
Surely, though, Boris Johnson should be celebrated for trying to get wages to be increased and to push businesses for paying people a lot more.
I mean, Boris Johnson should be celebrated for talking about something. That doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. Unfortunately, the government doesn't necessarily set up productivity. I mean, you could argue they can pull some levers. They could look at the regulations in the economy and all the regulations imported from the EU and see what's making us less productive, what's slowing businesses down. They can look at our tax system and the way we tax businesses and encourage and move towards lower taxes and less taxes on investment that might encourage productivity boosts. But unfortunately, what we're seeing from Boris when it comes to the actual policy detail is the opposite. He talks about a low tax economy, and yet we're going to have some of the highest tax burden since the Second World War. He talks about high wages, but he's doing very little to actually achieve it in practice. So while we should welcome the talk, I think we should see governments more about doing. And in that respect, I'm not particularly happy with what we're seeing from Boris Johnson at the moment.